Is homesteading not going the way you want it to go? Well, I'm going to share with you 100 tips and tricks that should hopefully improve your homestead, or farm, or whatever you want to call it. These will go over chickens, ducks, which both of them can be applied to most poultry animals, and even most livestock, and we're also going to go through gardening and maintaining the proper land. So what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to go grab your favorite drink, your favorite food, and as well, go grab a notebook and a pencil, and let's go. Now get ready for the first 25 tips of the day. So the first tip is going to be you want to never include the water in the coop at night. Now I hear you asking, why do you not want to include water in the coop at night? You want to include it during the day, but at the nighttime, they make a massive mess. Tip number 2 is to invest in an automatic coop door. I mean, you don't want to wake up at 6 a.m. every day in the summer to let them outside, don't you? You want to get that nice quality 8 hours of sleep, but when you have school or work, you have to wake up at 4:30 a.m., you know? You have to, like, get out there, and you're basically the automatic coop door. So it's tip number 3, if you're going to free range it, doing a hybrid matters. So you can check out my free ranging chickens video, which is, like, the last video I think I posted on this channel, actually, or something like that. So the next one, do not name your chickens that you aren't keeping. So meat chickens, chickens that you know are going to be killed almost immediately as soon as they step outside. So you want to next invest in an owl figure that'll keep aerial predators away. So hawks, eagles, stuff like that. You want to keep them out of there, so invest in an owl figure because they don't like those, you know? They'll spend a lot more time being scared about that than they will trying to kill your chickens. Actually, we had a hawk fly over today, but it didn't go down. And hopefully won't come back tomorrow. You want to keep the feed out of reach because you don't want your chickens to turn into my Great Dane dog. You know, the other week he literally got into the puppy food because we just got a puppy over here. And he ate, like, the entire box, all because somebody decided to leave the pantry door slightly over. It was stupid. Another thing is to never feed your chickens just stuff you find on the ground and stuff like that. You want to, like, just give them the high quality stuff, you know? You don't want to be feeding them random stuff you find on the ground. Next up, you want to bring them treats once a day, maybe twice, but don't overdo it. Do not overdo it. Do not give them treats every waking hour of the day. You want to give it just one time a day, maybe 2 times a day if you're really feeling nice or if it's a special day for them. These treats should always be consisting of healthy stuff and one thing they really love, and you want to alternate that every day. That's just the tip of the day. You don't want to review them every week for medical issues. You want to pick them up at night or in the morning and, like, review them, make sure they're all healthy and all that whatnot. I can make a video essay if you guys want to in the future discussing that. And you want to gain the ability to brave through loss because you're going to be losing them a lot. It'll be teaching you a lot of life lessons and stuff like that. So you don't want to put a random rooster in the flock. We made that mistake with Falcon, and when I get my own farm in like 10 years, something like that, I'm going to never be giving my chickens random roosters, just throwing a random rooster in the flock. That's never going to be happening. So the next thing you want to do is you want to notice their pecking order and find out how to be above it. It's really easy to be above their pecking order, or else you'll be included in it. But fortunately, you won't be involved with any of the fighting. They just know you're with there. But you do want to notice their pecking order so you know which chickens are being picked on the most. Then you want to, if you're going to move your chickens, like what we do here, I do something called the trail camera technique, which what I do is I set up, is where I find the area, I put 4 trail cameras on each side, 1 in the middle and 1 in a different random location. This helps us figure out which types of animals you can find on each side of them. The next thing you want to do is you want to reinforce the chicken coop walls with different layers. I'll show you what we have. We have the wall, the foam or insulation or whatever, it's just foam, not insulation, and the siding. That means that bears will have to pry through 3 layers, and hopefully they won't ever try to do that. They probably won't even make it through the first layer, but I'm not going to try to jinx my luck there. You want to keep your chickens clear of your garden because there will be some toxic stuff there, but I did see when I was reading an article for this, there was a tip where, like, you could, like, put, like, some gardening stuff in there, like you could, like, even grow a couple plants for them to eat, but only like 1 or 2. So yeah, and then you want to choose the chicken breeds that best suits your level. So if you're just getting in, I'd recommend looking at like Barred Rocks, Buff Orpingtons, Easter Eggers. I already did like a 13-minute video just reviewing those 3. There's many others. I'll be posting my next installment of the reviewing every chicken breed tomorrow. You want to manage your broody hens because if you don't, there will be some pretty serious repercussions to that. Use simple feeders. You want to do something that requires them to first solve the quadratic formula, then you gotta state the Pythagorean theorem, and then they get the chicken feed. No, you don't want to do all that. You just want to use a simple feeder. Then you want to make sure there are as many places in their yard for enrichment. What I mean by that is dust bathing and just communication. Those are two of the biggest types of enrichment for chickens. I've made like 2 videos talking about dust baths. If you want, I can make a third one. I don't know. Another one is to use CDs to keep hawks away. You want to use those CDs to your advantage because the glare they make when they're in the sun, it'll scare that hawk away. They do not like bright things. You could also use tin foil and an owl figure, as I said earlier. You want to add fake eggs to their nesting box for one reason. Because if you, like, so that way they don't go, just that way they don't break the eggs, because if they're like pecking at it, they're going to probably break the eggs eventually, not because they don't want to go broody, because they'll still go broody, don't worry. And then you want to keep the coop dry to prevent against mold, protect against mold, yo. This is not a scripted video, yo. And then you want to help them adjust to inclement weather, because, well, we got 14 inches of snow last month, and they weren't used to that. And guess what happened, like, 3 weeks later? It was 67 degrees, and then it snowed again, and then it was back to 67 degrees. Welcome to New England. And prepare for chicken math, which if you're going to go to which I'm going to explain it briefly. You go to the store, you're going to go buy some chickens, right? You're just going to limit yourself to one, but instead you come home with like 57,000 different chickens. That's chicken math, man, and be prepared to be seeing it a lot of different times in your chicken growing, like, wow, I messed up there, in your chicken growing progress. And of course we have tips 26 to 50, so let's do the ducks. So, you want to use them to your advantage. They're oftentimes really good for just staring into the souls of hawks. Yeah, they'll stare them down just like that. Tip 27, of course, is to add a paint bucket into their water. Not like a paint bucket that you'd have like the paint in, but like something where you like add the roller in, if you know what I'm talking about. Put that and a little metal thing on top of it, and that'll help collect the water for ducklings. Use straw. You want to use the straw because that'll help collect the water when they're ducklings. Do not put the food and water in the coop. They'll play in that stuff. But you could add a tiny kiddie pool in their yard, and they will play in that sort of stuff. It's deep enough for them to stick little heads into it, but it's also shallow enough that like you don't have to like. That's not like a big like drowning threat for people that aren't anticipating it. You don't need a roosting bar. That's tip 31, of course. You want to add them to your garden, but you want to cage things up. You don't want to have them in there all day, but like you could have that as like part of their daily routine a bit. And always have a hiding space. Same with chickens, but like they're really vulnerable. Add smaller holes to their fences. Really, really basic stuff there, man. You just gotta add some tiny holes, smaller holes, because they're gonna find a way to get out of it somehow. You want to add a ramp into their coop because they're gonna have some issues getting out because they're much heavier than the chickens, so they don't like try to get away. And you want to hold them using your 3 fingers. If you know like how to hold chickens, you hold them with 3 fingers and you put your hand on the top. So that way they're really comfortable in that position. You want to have at least 3 to 5 ducks if you're gonna just have a small things. Buy ducks that are easy to tame. So like, Rowans, Pekings, Cayugas are okay if you really know what you're doing. And you want to feed them with unmedicated feed. Of course, that's tip 39. Tip 40 is going to be, they do not need a pond, man. They don't need a pond. They do not need a pond. They need a small pool. Make sure everything is in reach, because they're going to have a lot of issues trying to get to things. So basically, it's the same with the nesting boxes. You want to make sure they're in reach. And you want to add a ton of water in their waterer, because they drink a whole lot, because they're water animals. They're waterfowl. And then you want to keep their brooder anywhere from 90 to 95 degrees, but you want to lower it 1 degree every week. When they're ducklings, of course. Keep an eye on them at all times. Like, as I was saying, they're really vulnerable. You want to fence them in. You want them all the time. You want to have them in a fence or a massive fenced-in area. And you want to create a call for them. This is one that's optional, but, like, I've seen a lot of people, like, create one. An example is all ducks go to bed. I think I remember hearing that one on a farming channel, where, like, he called all the ducks in and they actually follow. It'd take a little bit of work, but you could try working with your ducks with that. Provide at least 4 square feet of floor space for them per duck. So if you have 3 ducks, simple math, 4 times 3, that's 12 square feet. I want to add layers to the coop, same with the chickens, and of course have an automatic coop door, even more so than with chickens, of course, Alright, well, I'm running out of time here today because I gotta go somewhere soon, but I'm just gonna do the last part of this real quickly. So, you wanna choose plants that are at your level. So, you don't wanna, like, choose a plant that's, like, ridiculously high up there on the hierarchy. You wanna keep it all away from cats. Personal experience speaks to that one. My cat, Cricket, ate my peppers. So, in that case, you wanna buy some, like, you wanna start with seedlings, but if you need to, you could buy some like starters if you need to. You could use kitchen scraps as compost. Compost is a really good big thing. Similar to compost, we have biodegradable pots. Yeah, you want to use those as often as possible. They are really, really, really useful. You want to always transplant them when you need to, which is usually once every 4-ish weeks, like 3 to 4 weeks on average. You want to keep the pH levels in check. Usually 6 to 8 pH, but it could be lower or higher depending on what your plant is. If you don't know what pH is, look it up. This is not like your high school biology class here. I'm not your personal biology teacher. You want to keep the pets out of the garden because if your dogs get out of your house, like this used to happen to us all the time, now it doesn't. But like when they get out of the house, they trample through the garden, knocking stuff over left and right. You want to use basil to keep the beetles from eating the tomatoes. You want to rip all the flowers off of the basil. I know it sounds rough, but it's going to keep the basil alive for longer. It's a lot of work, but it's required. I'll keep the potato plants separate from the garden because of potato beetles. And if you see those potato beetles, put them in a soapy solution. Because why wouldn't you put them in a soapy solution? Tip 63 is to use oregano to keep the deer away. Tip 64, keep gourds on trellises. We're going to have to do this year. Because every year, they go over and ruthlessly murder not 3 different plants, but like different types of plants that will be growing there. Don't want to have pumpkins in the garden. Same with corn. And you also want to moderate the number of flowers that are in the area because they could easily multiply themselves. They mutate. And you want to wait until the last frost was over 3 weeks ago. Because, like, imagine like I planted this year. And then magically, 2 days after I planted, like June 1st, something like that, we get freaking 18 inches of snow. Yeah, that wouldn't go well. And you want to use the correct tools to harvest because like if you don't, you'll severely damage the plant. And you want to use a frost blanket and tarp if it's going to frost again. And add an irrigation system. You could put it in different zones to regulate the water levels, but on average like 1 to 2 inches of water a week is necessary for plants. Add support to any of the plants you need, like tomatoes. Like you could add like a bungee cord or something like that around them, so that way, not a bungee cord, but just like a cord around them, so that way you could keep them standing, because they get to like 50 inches tall. You want to keep your cord close together to protect them from wind, because we had a hurricane when it's 2020. The winds were ridiculously strong during that one. We had wind gusts of like 75 miles an hour here, and it knocked out all the corn. You want to keep the garden well moisturized. Irrigation systems does that, folks. I'll remake that video sometime this spring, so stick around, click the like and subscribe, yo. You want to clean the garden every week, so by that I mean weeding the garden. And last but not least, believe in yourself, man. You gotta believe in yourself. Like, you know, if you don't, your garden's gonna go nowhere. Believing in yourself is key for everything. Well, now we are in the last part of this video. Man, this is taking me way too long to make, but I'm going to provide you with the last 25 tips of the day. So you want to ask your town before you want to build something big like a barn, especially, or like a pool or something like that, because you're going to need their permission for a lot of things, unfortunately, nowadays, but it's going to require a whole lot of stuff to own a farm, man. So you want to use a brush hog to clear all the major weeds for tip 77. Tip 78, you want to use the hedgers to clip smaller weeds, like around the house, like maybe you have some grapevines growing. That actually happens to us. Tip 79, you want to mow your lawn like every week or two in the summer, or whenever your grass is growing crazily, to make it look nice and to keep those dumb ticks from climbing all over you. You want tip 80, you want to keep everything spaced out, so like the garden in one area and the chickens in the other. Tip 81, add a dog yard to keep them from going to other yards, because your dogs will love exploring. Tip 82 is to plan out all the builds with care and necessary procedures. Tip 83, of course, is to build everything properly. And then tip 84, you should use small vehicles to get things around. So tiny little trucks, you may see those every now and then, or just ATVs, which is what we use to carry some small things like hay around to different locations. You want to build some fences to separate some things for tip 85, and then tip 86, remove all the barbed wire and replace it with fencing. I'll tell you a quick story. The other day, I was walking and I literally just walked straight into some barbed wire, man. It hurt. Wouldn't recommend it. Tip 87 will be to set up the trail cameras, obviously, to spy on the wildlife. And then tip 88, similar to that, have a tree stand to see where your wildlife is. You don't necessarily have to use it for hunting. You could just use it for, like, setting up, like, a tree stand. Or you could 100% use it for hunting like it's made to do. Tip 89, you should always get your soil tested before you build certain things. I mean, it's a requirement, but so why not test it? Tip 90, keep your property well maintained to make it look nice. Obviously, this is like the whole purpose of this section. Tip 91 is to find different uses for different things. So, like, if you find like a weird like area out there that would be really good for like building something on it, build something there. Tip 92 should be learning just a little bit of repurposing. It's really useful. Just learn a little bit of repurposing, especially for gardening and raising chickens. Tip 93, of course, with chickens, use chickens and other poultry to help you mow the lawn. That's what we do here. And then tip 94, you should use compost to help with soil. Tip 95, you should consult people to help you out if necessary, especially when you're building something that will take you a lot longer, that could cut that time down by just a bit. Tip 96, you should build some stone walls if you want. We're in the last 3 tips. Choose an aesthetic, trust the process, remember you will have bad days, and never give up. Those were the last 4 tips of the day, man. That's crazy.